the sweat. It's damn good to have you here with us. And by us, I mean Steve Buchanan, Josh Applebaum, yours truly, Emerson Lotzie. Did everyone have a great Thanksgiving?
It was good. I mean, for a holiday that I'm not a big fan of, it was actually
I know.
not bad.
You had your Christmas decorations up like a month ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, then we got to talk about the holidays that matter.
Very true. Everything was great.
Great holiday. Although I would say, Emerson, it's kind of tough. Your first holiday with the in-laws. You want to make a good impression.
Whoa.
You got to keep a lot of things to yourself.
Yeah.
And by the way, they're staying at our house the rest of the weekend, so hope they're not watching this show today.
Good luck, Josh.
That's awful.
Yeah, it is awful. So was the Jets' performance yesterday on Black Friday. So let's start right now with what was cooking on a historic Black Friday, one in which the Dolphins moved to 8-3 on the season. They knock off the Jets. Final score 34-13. So there was a different man under center for New York, and the results really stayed the same, guys. The Tim Boyle experiment has been a failure, and all of New York was unable to keep pace with that ridiculously talented football team known as the Dolphins, especially the offense there, Josh. So the butt fumble, the team that brought us the butt fumble on what was that, Thanksgiving night, like 2012, delivered.
I think it was Christmas.
Was it Christmas?
It's one of the holidays.
Okay. Anywho, you're so focused on Christmas. Well, hold up, Steve. Yesterday, we got the Hail Mary. Not the Hail Mary, but the Hail Mary as the Dolphins returned an interception 99 freaking yards as time expires in the first half here. How lost is this Jets team right now, Steve?
Boy. Well, not only that, I think it was, I read this somewhere that Amazon paid like $100 million or something for like
it's not a great return on investment.
These Friday games.
It's bad. Yeah, I remember like talking about this last season just with their Thursday night football package.
Yeah.
When they started that, and those games were miserable. But yesterday was just an embarrassment for the Jets.
Right, because like I think like the whole purpose for Amazon doing this is to keep shoppers at home, right, and then go on Amazon.
Yeah.
That made shoppers go out because they couldn't. They had to go.
We're going to the mall, man.
Right,
it's the 90s.
I mean, if you're a New York fan, you had to go out and have a cigarette after that match, that game there. But here's the thing too, especially when it comes to Tim Boyle. I mean, this is somebody who has been in the league since 2019. Coming into this game as of yesterday, he's only thrown 9 pass attempts of 20 yards or more since he's been in the league. 120 pass attempts coming to that game, 9 of them for over 20 yards or more. I mean, this is not somebody who's going to go deep downfield and do it efficiently. Now, to be fair, I mean, they had to do it in that type of situation. I mean, what are you going to do? Run an option in that play? That's what the Giants do. So it's something that had to be done, but I mean, my goodness, for them to do what they did with that, and that really swung how it covered in the first half too.
That's true.
That was a huge game-changing play for the betting market too, as well. But like, what an absolute disaster! What a team.
I mean, the Jets really never recovered. In fact, Josh, they ran only 3 offensive plays in a miserable third quarter, and then obviously lose by 3 touchdowns here.
Yeah, where's Mike White when you need him, Emerson?
Seriously.
Yeah, they should have re-signed him. He actually flashed a little bit last year, but yeah, I think the Jets are in a tough spot here. Obviously, you're waiting on Aaron Rodgers to hopefully return, but my question is, are they falling out of the race here to a point where why even bring Aaron Rodgers back? Again, this is a team that, whether it's Zach Wilson, whether it's now Tim Boyle, it's pretty much the same thing here. If you look at their current updated adjusted win total right now, they're sitting 4-7. The under 6.5, Emerson, is juiced up -150. And if you look at their schedule, there's a couple winnable games left here, but if you're going to have a situation where you're just not producing offensively, and not only that, but you're giving up, TDs on the other way, interceptions, returns, stuff like that. I mean, their upcoming schedule: Falcons, Texans, Dolphins, Commanders, Browns, Pats. Again, if you're not getting offense, I don't know how many of these games you're going to win. I lead under a little bit here, but I'll just go macro on you, Emerson. I'll lump in kind of that Black Friday game with Thanksgiving overall. Thanksgiving's about turkey, but it was really about chalk over the last few days because we saw all these kind of big favorites with line moves come through. You saw San Francisco. We were doing a show last week, Steve. Remember, I think you made a good point. Jump on them early. They're -5.5, getting steamed up to 7. They roll. Dallas had a ton of late steam. Pay attention to the last couple hours before a game. If you see a line really tick up, Dallas was at one point like -10. They got all the way up to almost -14. They roll. Same thing with Miami, 6.5 up to 9.5. So it's been a really weird year. Unders are doing great this year. That's one thing I'm really thankful for. We'll get to that later. But if you look at these favorites in particular, favorites in the NFL are now 84-79 against the spread. May not seem that impressive, 51.5%. but that's actually the best that we've seen favorites at this point in the season since 2017. So it's been chalky, and again, it was kind of a public holiday, which we've talked about before. On these short weeks, you tend to see favorites do better because the better team does better on the short amount of rest.
What kind of confidence boost is this performance going to give this Dolphins offense here, Steve? They're entering a soft part of the schedule here. So it's at the Commanders, you're home against the Titans, and then you're home against the Jets again.
I mean, I don't know. Like, does beating the Jets give you a confidence boost?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Like, you're not going to get a confidence boost from beating them. You're going to get a morale, rejection if you lose to them. Like, you should be beating this team. And you just mentioned it. Like, you have, the rest of the schedule here. Now they're going up against Washington next week. I mean, good Lord. I mean, since they traded away Chase and Sweat, I mean, this defense is allowing an average of 30.5 points per game since that trade happened. Now, that would have been higher if they didn't have to play the stupid Patriots right after that trade, because they could only put up 17 points in that game. This should be 40-something points that they're allowing, but the Patriots are as inept as possible. But then we have to mention one thing. Miami lost 2 key defensive players in that game. Phillips done for the year with an Achilles injury. Yep. Then you got Holland late in that game too to a knee injury. So there's 2 big defensive hits that they took potentially long-term. Phillips for sure. We still don't know about Holland yet, but that's something to watch moving forward. But you're right there. I like this schedule coming up. Washington, Tennessee, Jets, Dallas, Baltimore for the rest of the season. I mean, they should roll here. They're already basically in the playoffs. They're the runaway favorites to win the division. Absolute lock to make the playoffs here. Now it's just kind of getting ready for the playoffs at this point.
I mean, on the other side of the ball here, Josh, Aaron Rodgers keeps saying he wants to come back, but the Jets just look lost. I mean, how much does he even fix if he comes back into the picture here?
Well, Aaron Rodgers, one thing we've learned is he loves the spotlight, he loves the attention. I think there's part of him that just says, hey, I suffered this injury, no one ever comes back this quick. I want to just kind of make history, be the first one to come back from a terrible Achilles, snapping on you and coming back early. So I think there's kind of an ego-driven point of coming back early. But Rodgers, as you're getting up older in age, the worst thing you want to do is come back to a team that's losing and then maybe re-aggravate the injury or kind of hurt you for the next year. So if I'm the Jets, I'm probably, again, you don't want to say the T word, tanking, but at this point, are you going to go far with Boyle or Wilson? I don't think so. Why rush Rodgers back when he's old and could risk a re-aggravation here? Again, they have a good defense, but I think at one point or at some point this is going to turn.
We got to stop saying that. They do not have a good defense.
Yeah, you said that last week when we were here.
They don't have a good defense. Over the past 4 games now, with Miami included, they're giving up 27 points per game.
I mean, they're out there all the time. Trucked. They're exhausted. They're fried because their offense absolutely blows.
Yeah, but what's the motivation there? Is that because the offense lets them
no,
down?
I mean, I don't disagree.
Is there cause and effect?
Sure, I don't disagree with that. But for us to sit here and say the Jets have a good defense, that is just not true at this point anymore. They do not have a good defense at this point. They started off the year extremely well. They have been anything but a good defense in the second half of the season.
When you can make an argument, there's a quarterback problem, there's a Nathaniel Hackett problem. Some people say Robert Saleh is an issue. He's dreaming of his glory days as the 49ers defensive coordinator, and San Francisco's thriving. They've won now 10 consecutive games against NFC West opponents. That 3-game losing streak feels like a century ago. They just destroyed the Seahawks here. Out of all the bright spots, Steve, on this 49ers football team right now, which is the brightest?
Man, I mean, the team just looks like they're complete. Yeah. There's 2 teams right now that I feel are absolutely complete, and it's the 49ers and the Cowboys right now. I feel like those 2 teams just have it all going for them right now. There's nothing to even really bet on with this team right now. I think they're minus 4,000 to win the division. I mean, that's wrapped up. I mean, if you maybe want to take under on their win total right now, it's at 12.5. It's at minus 150 to the under. They would basically need to win out the rest of the season to cash this one here. They still got the Eagles, the Ravens, and then you always get that final week there where they're potentially resting some players, and then they maybe lose that game. But the 49ers are just another team where I feel like it's kind of just focused on the playoffs now. They're in. They've locked everything in here. Now they're just getting things ready for the playoffs at this point here. But, I mean, between the 49ers and the Cowboys, for the way they've been playing lately, I feel like those are the 2 most complete teams in the NFL right now.
I mean, next week, 49ers at the Eagles. That's going to be meaty as hell, Josh.
Yeah, I think it's a great teaser opportunity there because the Eagles obviously are great at home. It's a short number. Then you got to look at the situation of being a dog. You really never get that with Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. I think some of these lines are around 2.5. If that stays where it's at, to me, if you're around a key number, I want to see how the public, kind of handles that. Because again, you can get Eagles at a short price, but then also Niners. which will have a rest advantage. Eagles will be playing tomorrow. That could be worth a look as a dog play. But again, it's tough to bet against Jalen Hurts, especially at home. He's now the favorite for the MVP, around plus 200. I think if you're targeting San Francisco, maybe you're looking at some of these, even think longer term, plus 200 to win the NFC. Can they go to the Super Bowl? You're getting a pretty good number there as well. It's all about health, though, Emerson. One thing we've seen with San Francisco and Shanahan is he almost has like this kryptonite of quarterbacks getting hurt. And we saw when you saw Trent Williams go down and Deebo Samuel and these great offensive weapons. It's all about health to me. So I think it's all on Shanahan moving forward to be careful with these guys. You don't want to, put them in mothballs and wait for the playoffs here, but you're in a good position. You have a pretty good lead here in your division. Steve mentioned you're a shoe-in here for the playoffs. I just think you want to be smart with these players. Rest them, don't work them too hard, and maybe work on your depth and make sure these guys don't get hurt.
And then just quickly here, guys, how vulnerable does this Seahawks team look right now? Maybe we're seeing their true colors.
I bet them to miss the playoffs. They've lost 2 in a row. They're on a playoff bubble right now. They're even money to make the playoffs, 125 to miss. Their schedule rest of the season: Dallas, San Francisco, Philly, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Arizona. 125 to miss the playoffs, free money. Take them to miss the playoffs.
And it's never good when you get smashed by a 3-score margin at home by a divisional rival operating on short rest, by the way, Josh. It's even worse when that represents a third loss in 4 games.
Yeah, and down the stretch, as Steve mentioned, it's a really, really tough schedule here. So you're still sitting at 6 wins. You need 3 more to cash that over. I think that 8.5, I think it's a pretty good juice price. It's minus 110 both sides adjusted win total. I'd go under 8.5 for Seattle right now.
All right, everybody, hang out. We got to take our first break of the program. Coming up, Julian's here to dish out some of his best bets ahead of Rivalry Saturday around college football. Ohio State, Michigan. We got ourselves a spicy meatball. screen, it is the sweat. Back on the college football field, it is rivalry week. Julian Edlow, kind enough to join us now to dish out some of his best bets for the final weekend before conference championship weekend. And no rivalry game here looms larger than the top three matchup, little tasty matchup between Ohio State and Michigan. The Wolverines favored today for the first time since 2018 in this rivalry matchup here, Jules. So what is the play here, young man?
Yeah, so this one, me personally, I will be sitting back rooting for Michigan as somebody that preseason took them at around 2-1 to win the Big Ten. Now, if you're in that position, you can also hedge with Ohio State, who is now an underdog. Michigan favored at home, obviously. And we don't even have, this is the champion, both the Big Ten championship game and a college football playoff game, because whoever wins is going to stomp Iowa and be undefeated and go into that college football playoff. So for me, I think that the price is cheap on Michigan if you haven't gotten invested so far at in the ballpark of a field goal, 3.5. I would lay that with Michigan at home. They've been dominant in this matchup recently. Now it is a little worrisome now that they're not in the underdog role. Do they handle it any differently?
Yeah, that's a good point, because the Wolverines haven't beaten the Buckeyes as a favorite since 2011.
Right. And it ties in, though. They're not often favored in the matchup.
Bingo.
It's generally been Ohio State favored. So how many opportunities have there been? For me, I think that Michigan kind of proved that they're the more well-rounded team. It comes down to Ohio State's offense. It comes down to the quarterback play from the Buckeyes.
Ohio State's defense is damn good, too. They've allowed 17 points or less in every game this season.
They are. It's going to be a tall task, but I lean to Michigan there.
All right, well, don't look now or do, but Texas A&M is riding a 2-game win streak after getting rid of Jimbo Fisher, clashing with LSU. And Jaden Daniels, who can make one last Heisman statement here. What's a bet you like in this game?
Yeah, it's that Heisman statement that has my attention here.
Really?
LSU with those losses, they can't do it. They'll make a good bowl game, but they can't do anything this season in terms of winning the SEC or getting into the college football playoff. So what can they do to salvage this season? They can get Jaden Daniels the Heisman. I'm not necessarily betting it, because I think if Washington were to go undefeated, it has to go to Penix. If Bo Nix gets revenge and beats Washington and gets to 12-1, he has a strong case versus a 3-loss quarterback. But I do know that LSU is going to go all out to put up stats for Jaden Daniels this week. Last week, that meant scoring a bazillion points.
Eight touchdowns. So,
and 8 touchdowns.
I was thinking, is this a good opportunity to sell high on the Tigers after that 8-touchdown performance by him?
I'm going to keep buying on the touchdowns being scored. So how I'm going to do that is over 39.5 on the team total for the LSU Tigers at home. This is also a game Texas A&M came in, or they went to Texas A&M and lost last year on the last week of the regular season. It was a big look-ahead spot for the Tigers going to Georgia for the SEC title game. But here, I think the focus is on scoring points, putting points on the board, and making Jaden Daniels look good so he has that case to win the Heisman.
Yeah, Texas A&M has 3 losses in the conference this season, and those 3 were by a combined total of 16 points.
Yeah.
UNC quarterback Drake May, drawn a ton of praise, right, as one of the top NFL prospects here the past 2 seasons, but the wins have really been harder to come by for him, Jules. How big of an edge do the Tar Heels have over NC State today?
I don't think the Tar Heels have any edge over NC State, particularly with NC State at home. You look at these games, these 2 teams are going in the complete opposite directions.
Yep.
You have both teams sitting at 8-3, yes, but UNC has lost 3 of their last 5 games. They're 1-4 against the spread in those games, and that includes 2 outright losses as double-digit favorites. One of those 2 wins was a 2-point win over Duke as double-digit favorites, and that was against Duke's 3rd-string quarterback, and UNC was at home. One of the 2 wins during that span, the other one other than Duke, was essentially a bye game over Campbell. Okay. So UNC just isn't playing well. If you look at them on the road overall this season, they're 1-2 straight up and against the spread. And they're coming off a bad road loss to Clemson last week. This is the first time this season UNC is going to play back-to-back games on the road. Then you have NC State. They haven't had a bad loss all year. Notre Dame, Louisville, and Duke when Duke had their quarterback and they were at full strength. So Wolfpack now 4-0 straight up and against the spread in their last 4. They've won really tough games. 3 of them as underdogs against Clemson, Miami, Virginia Tech, and the other one is a slight favorite. So better defense. You're at home getting points. Give me the Wolfpack here.
All right, let's stick around that region of the country because Clemson is around a touchdown favorite on the road at South Carolina. Gamecocks are one victory away here from bowl eligibility. Do you expect them to kind of bring the heat today?
That always factors in. They probably want to win that game and become bowl eligible, whereas Clemson, this has been a win or lose this game, it's been a letdown. Now, it's a little bit of a revenge spot for Clemson. They lost this game by 1 at home in rivalry week last year. You got to go on the road this time around, but this Clemson team just isn't as good, and we know that. They picked up some steam winning 3 games in a row at home. They had the statement win over Notre Dame and then had the UNC win, another win at home, but they haven't been on the road in about a month. And on the road is where this team falls apart. Before that 3-game win streak at home, they were on the road. Lost as favorites to Miami. Lost as favorites to NC State. They're 1-3 straight up and against the spread on the road this season. So you're going to a much hungrier team in South Carolina that wants this win. You're getting over a touchdown here. I got to take the points with the Gamecocks. I think they're live to win this game and become bowl eligible. Once again, they're riding a 3-game winning streak in. They just beat Kentucky. Spot screams Gamecocks.
What about Florida State, Florida here? What has your attention in a game in which backup quarterbacks are going to take center stage?
Yeah, that always makes the game the most interesting to handicap when you have 2 new backup quarterbacks making their first starts here, essentially. So for FSU, we're going to learn a lot about this team without Jordan Travis. Tough blow for them. They not only need to win these last couple games, they need to look good doing so to remain in the college football playoff.
Do you think there's a chance they win these last 2 and actually don't make the playoff?
I do, because you have to look at what the team is. If they're not playing well enough and they don't have their quarterback, the committee has to factor that in. So you're going to go to a really tough place to win in Florida now. And yes, Graham Mertz isn't playing, but Max Brown looked solid in relief. So I think that the quarterback injury is much bigger on the FSU side. I think we all have to agree. So FSU has all the pressure in the world on them to not just win, but look good doing so to prove they're still a college football playoff game. Florida lost their last home game at the Swamp to Arkansas. Prior to that, they had won 9 of 10.
It's a tough place to play. It's loud and it is moist.
We saw the tenant. That's what swamps are.
Yep.
Pretty swampy situation for FSU, I would say here, who last time they went to the Swamp for this rivalry game 2 years ago, lost.
Yeah.
And then last year, this game was played at FSU, and Florida only lost it by a touchdown.
Yep.
So
I was going to say, last 2 meetings have been 1-score games.
Yeah, you're getting almost a touchdown here with the home team. We saw this situation I know FSU's a lot better than Tennessee, but early in the season, nobody gave the Gators a chance, and they stomped Tennessee. I think this is a big spot for them. And you mentioned South Carolina being bowl eligible. Guess what? Florida's 5-6. You win this one, you're going bowling.
All right, let's talk Iron Bowl, shall we? Auburn coming off an embarrassing loss to New Mexico State, and the Tigers are really catching Bama just at the wrong time, the worst time. What is your tantalizing take for this one?
It's almost like the perfect storm that Alabama should roll them here. Like Alabama just keeps getting better week after week, getting ready for this Georgia game.
I was going to say a little tune-up spot for the SEC championship game next week.
And Auburn just had a terrible home loss. These are the type of situations where I would be terrified to lay it with Alabama. They're now a growing road favorite.
Iron Bowl debut for Hugh Freeze.
Auburn was clearly looking ahead in that loss. Will they be ready for Bama, who's now probably looking ahead, preparing for Georgia the following week in the SEC title game? It just seems like a perfect storm where Auburn somehow hangs in and Alabama wins the game. Alabama's going to win the game. They absolutely have to win the game to keep those college football playoff hopes alive for next week. But I would be terrified to lay it. So, all in all, I'm saying stay away. If you want to back Alabama in any way, go get that look-ahead line against Georgia, because I think that getting anything more than a field goal with Alabama there is worth a look.
Some of the best finishes in recent college football history have come in this rivalry game.
They have. It's always close, no matter how good Alabama is.
All right, so Colorado and Deion, we'll get you out of here with this. They've lost 5 straight. They come crashing back down to earth here. Buffs are in the Beehive State for a clash with Utah. How are you approaching this game here? Yeah,
Utah coming off getting rolled by Arizona, too. Kind of a disappointing season for them, but we know how good the Utes are at home. The Ducks are really the only team that came in there and gave them a really tough time. So I think this is just a get-right spot for a Utah team that isn't going to win the Pac-12, but they're still in a position to get an 8-win season. They try down the stretch.
They've owned this series, Jules. They've won each of the last 6 matchups by at least 10 points, including last year's 63-21 defeat, obviously before Dion showed up.
Yeah, they try late in the season. They try in bowl games. And Colorado, I just think the wheels have fallen off.
Yeah.
They're getting smoked
It's
every
ugly,
week.
dude.
Shador got hurt. Shador Sanders, the quarterback, Deion Sons.
Okay.
So this sets up for a spot whether you want to go Utah first half or full game. Utah should roll in this game.
All right, Jules, we are going to reward your 10 minutes of work here with 24 hours off. We're going to talk some NFL with you.
I could use it.
On tomorrow's show. Hell, we're going to talk some NFL after this quick break, everybody, and continue to help all of you nurse those Turkey Day pigskin hangovers. The sweat is back on your screen in 240 seconds. right, welcome back to the Sweat, everybody. Gentlemen, the Packers lost just one game in the month of November and are now within reaching distance here of the playoff race. They're at 5-6. This is how they got there. After a short rest, short-handed road victory Thursday over a superior Lions team. Yeah, and quarterback Jordan Love completing 22 of 32 passes, just under 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, a turnover-free performance. We're overreacting here. So the Packers are making the playoffs. Overreaction or no, Steve?
I think it's very possible at this point. Like, I think they're finally starting to get the Jordan Love that they envisioned, what was it, 3 years ago when they drafted him in the first round, and Aaron Rodgers like, okay, I'm out, dude. I'm done with
He says,
this.
no, dude.
But they're plus 120 to make the playoffs currently. Now, they have the Chiefs next week. That's going to be a little bit tough. But after that, boy, does that schedule get soft. Giants, Bucks, Panthers, Vikings, Bears. That sounds like a playoff push to me for the Packers. Like, their strength throughout the season has been their secondary. They have been so good at defending against opposing wide receivers. And then you look at some of the quarterbacks they're going to be going up against, like DeVito, Bryce Young, Justin Fields. Like, there's a lot of winnable games there for the Packers for the rest of the season. So I think now is the time to get them to make the playoffs at plus 120. Well, you could actually wait till they most likely lose to the Chiefs next week after that. But still, getting plus money on them to win the playoffs right now, they make it into the playoffs right now, that feels like a pretty good bet.
I mean, Packers maybe long shots here to reclaim the NFC North crown, Josh, but now just one game out of the conference's final wildcard spot?
Yeah, I mean, they may not catch the Lions here, upward climb here at this point, but let's give them a shout out real quick on Thanksgiving Day. They were the only team, Emerson, who was contrarian and who was a dog and who covered the number. Every other game was chalk, favorite, obvious side came through, and I think you got to give the Packers a lot of credit here. They've really gotten hot. They've won 3 of their last 4. And looking at their win total, I think Steve made a good point. The schedule after the Chiefs game is really, winnable games here down the stretch. But I think it's all about the timing of when you place this bet. Because right now, the 8.5 win total adjusted, it's under minus 140, over plus 115. I think you wait until they lose, most likely to the Chiefs, and then you're going to get a better number on that over win total. But I also want to give a shout out to Michael Lombardi. And one cool thing we do at Visa and Emerson is we compile these, what we call the pro tips and picks. So after every show, each show contributes kind of a little nugget of information. And I thought Michael Lombardi made a really good point. Lombardi line coming up right after our show here today. He said, like that pro tease there, Emerson. Yeah, I'm working on my teases, man.
Keep it going. Keep pumping his tires.
Lombardi line. Michael Lombardi mentioned this. Young NFL teams like the Packers are still improving at this point in the season. Don't let a slow start cloud your evaluation of a team that has played better recently. So I think as a bettor, we're thinking of, what you did a month ago, 2 months ago. Should we be aware of that? Sure. But again, football is a sport of momentum and a sport of the more time you work together, the better you get theoretically. So this is a team that with the Packers that's on the rise. And again, as Steve mentioned, it's almost a coin flip here to make the postseason. I think after they lose to the Chiefs, you hit the over-win total, and I wouldn't be surprised if they make the postseason.
Michael Lombardi, we love you and we miss you. Please come back to the Sweat.
He's your best friend, by the way, Emerson, right?
He actually really is. That's what I have him in my phone house. Lions have progressed beautifully here, right, through the Dan Campbell era, but we're talking this wave of recent miscues really set them back a little bit. They committed 7 turnovers in a 5-day span after Thursday's performance. I don't know. It kind of feels like they're still maybe a year away from being a legit Super Bowl contender here.
I think you're probably right, Emerson. And again, this is a team, you got to clean up the turnovers. Obviously, we know Dan Campbell has done so much, so many great things with this young team. But I'm thinking about this team, like, progressing-wise. Like, Steve, you might like this comparison. Kind of like the Baltimore Orioles, like a team that, was bad for a while, started to kind of turn it around. Last year, remember, they beat the Packers late, but missed the postseason by a whisker. Now they're much better this year. We saw them on opening night beat the Chiefs. So they're on that trajectory, looking toward making the postseason here. They're actually a huge favorite to make the postseason and likely win their division. But I'm wondering if maybe this is a spot where it's just a year too early. You want to see this team continue to grow, a lot of young players. And if you look at kind of their schedule upcoming here, they're 8-3, and I'm wondering if that loss is a good thing, Emerson, because once you start to kind of get success really quick, does it get to your head? Do you read your press clippings? I think this is kind of a classic, Belichick, humble pie, bring you back down to earth, get back to work. I think if Campbell is the coach that we think he is, the master motivator, he's going to use this loss to hopefully benefit them down the stretch, make them a better team. But I think you're right. I think they're a year away from, maybe reaching an NFC title game.
I mean, Bukes, what does all of this indicate that they're in for when the schedule stiffens up, as Josh mentioned? So they still have to travel to New Orleans, Minnesota, and Dallas, and in Week 15, they're going to be hosting a surging Denver Broncos team.
And then the other thing is, too, is we have to look at the Vikings, too. These two teams haven't played each other yet. They're playing each other twice in the final 3 weeks of the season, and they're one game back. So we could see a pretty dramatic swing here. And if you look at the odds for the NFC North, so the Lions right now are a minus 600 to win the division. So that's an implied probability of 85%. Is it really that much of a gap? Right now, especially with 2 games against the Vikings to play, we talked about, the Packers are starting to surge. I'm not saying that the Packers are going to win, but the Packers are surging right now. Then you got the Vikings, who have Bears, Raiders, Bengals, which is now Jake Browning, so that's a fairly winnable game. Lions, Packers, Lions. It just feels at least how the odds are set right now, that the Vikings are feel like a pretty decent bet, not a big one here, but I'm not buying an 85% probability chance of the Lions to win the AFC North when how they've looked lately, and then both schedules for the Packers and the Vikings for the rest of the season. So to me, I'm looking at the NFC North and I'm going, this is not a slam dunk over here like the book is indicating for minus 600 for the Lions. So I think that's just an interesting way to kind of look at that right now, because I don't think it's that wide of a gap between these 3 teams.
And the Vikings get Justin Jefferson back. That could be a huge boost to their passing offense. Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
Following that Lions game at noon on Thanksgiving Day, you had the Cowboys go out there and just hammer the Commanders 45-10. Steve, I know you mentioned earlier just how legit the Cowboys have been looking this season. They've now outscored their opponents 127-37 in their last 3 games. At home this season, they're 5-0 with a freaking scoring margin of 205-60. Steve, what can you say about this team? Then let's not ignore the fact that Deron Bland and his 5 pick sixes is more than all but 13 wide receivers in the NFL. This is insane. It's another one of those complete football teams.
And then again, Eagles are minus 1,000 to win the division. So we're talking about a 91% probability. Is it that wide of a gap with the Cowboys right now? I mean, the Eagles are only 3-point favorites against the Bills, okay? I do expect the Eagles to win that game, but then they play the 49ers and the Cowboys. Now, the biggest benefit of the Eagles is that in 2 of their last 3 games are playing the Giants, okay? So there's some layup wins right now. And, the Cowboys schedule a little more challenging, but very winnable game on Thursday against Seattle. Then they have a pivotal game against the Eagles after that. Buffalo, Miami, Detroit, and Washington. So obviously that schedule is a bit challenging for the Cowboys. But again, I love what the Cowboys are doing right now. They're doing it on offense. They're doing it on defense right now, where the Eagles have been great. Don't get me wrong, but there are definitely times when I'm watching that team and I go, this is a beatable team. Whereas I'm watching the Cowboys lately and I go, man, it's really kind of hard to poke some holes in this team at this point. So again, the Eagles do have the benefit of the easier schedule, but a 91% implied probability for them to win the division when they still have a game with the Cowboys left, and you're getting, I think it's plus 650 for the Cowboys to win the division. It's just, there's a couple of these divisions here where it feels like the gap is not as big as these odds are indicating.
Josh, I think the biggest knock on the Cowboys is really their schedule. It's been very soft. We're talking soft opponents like, Washington, the Giants, Panthers, Pats are on there. But you can't control who you play in the Cowboys. On paper, and the eye test tells me they're proving to be on another level entirely.
They really are. And you think of the Cowboys the last few years, it's pretty good offense, but they let you down when you need them to play well. To me, it's a complete team. Playing great defense. Remember, they lost their number 1 cornerback, Trevon Diggs, earlier this year, and really haven't missed a beat. Bland has stepped up. They lose Leighton Vander Esch, hasn't made as big a difference as we think. So I'm kind of with Steve. This is a team that I'm starting to believe in. I don't want to take the cheese on the Cowboys because we them boys every year. It feels like you get excited about them if you're a Cowboys fan and they find a way, Lucy in the football, to kind of let you down. But I'm looking at the over 11.5 win total. I think to Steve's point, it seems like they could catch Philly. But I'm going to put a little faith in the odds makers. It just seems so fishy why that Philly favorite price is so big to win their division. So can they get down the stretch, Emerson? 4 more wins. Can you get to a 12-5 team? I think that's doable. You're playing the Seahawks here next. Eagles, obviously tough game. Bills, Dolphins, Lions, Commanders. Commanders, you expect to win there. But also looking at futures prices, plus 425 to win the conference, Emerson. Can this be either a win the conference or a hedge type opportunity? Also, you want to look at teams going deeper in the postseason. They're probably going to be a wild card if they don't win their division. That's a tough stretch to go through that wild card. We did see the Giants do that back in the day and beat the Patriots. But give credit to Dak Prescott. If you look at his numbers, he continues to get better every single week. He came back from that devastating injury. His quarterback rating is 107.4. That's the highest and best of his career. So if Dak stays healthy, if they can continue to produce, well-balanced, McCarthy, give him credit, pretty well coached here. You can maybe put the rest of those Belichick rumors going to Dallas if they continue to play well. This is a team that I'm starting to believe in.
Does Washington wait until the end of the year to get rid of Ron Rivera?
Yeah, there's no point at this point, right? They obviously went through their defensive guys, traded them away. They're just playing out the rest of the season here. Howell's been competent. He takes way too many sacks, but
I think he's leading the league in
passing yards at this point. Yeah, so I think they wait till the end of the year.
All right, still ahead, folks. The Seahawks, they look lost right now. Are we chasing or fading Pete Carroll and company to make the playoffs? Let's talk about it next. Welcome back to The Sweat, everybody, where it is time now for a healthy dose of NFL Chaser Fade. Steve Buchanan, you have returned. We've given Josh the segment off because Pierce Dietrich, DraftKings Network contributor, massive Detroit Lions fan, has joined us now. Yeah, don't make that face. You know I'm speaking the truth, buddy. What? What would you like to say?
I jumped ship early in the season. It became popular. It's too trendy to root for the Lions now.
Yeah, okay, man. All right. So all of a sudden, are you chasing or fading, Bukes, that the Lions make too many mistakes to contend?
Yeah. I mean, it's very obvious, too. And, like, this is not just from the past couple of weeks. But, like, when you start to get pressure on Jared Goff, like, he turns into a puddle. And, like, this has, like, followed him all throughout his career. But, like, if you look at the stats for him when he's been under pressure this season, he has a 53% completion rate. 6 of his 8 interceptions have come when he's been under pressure so far this season. He's averaging just over 6 yards per pass attempt in that situation there. And you look at some of the teams that these Lions are going to be facing to end the year, some really good pass rushing teams they're going to be facing, like Dallas there. So there's going to be a lot of pressure coming on Jared Goff in the upcoming weeks here. He's going to be making mistakes. Like I mentioned, that's happened all throughout his career. That's when he really starts to crumble here. So if they start getting pressure on Jared Goff, that's when it's really going to crumble here for the Lions. And we've seen that over the past couple of weeks. Would you say 5 turnovers the past 2 weeks
for the Lions?
7. I mean, it's
7 within 5 days.
Yeah, it's been pretty bad for Detroit there. So that's really the key to disrupt this offense, because when he's working with a clean pocket, he's been fantastic. Start to get pressure on Jared Goff, that's when things start to crumble.
And then Pierce, Dan Campbell, for as much as this team, really loves its head coach and rally around him, he goes for a fake punt deep in Detroit's own territory there late in the third quarter. Wow, that just sent you right off the Lions bandwagon.
Yeah, that was a absolutely terrible play call. Sometimes, Dan Campbell's drinking the Dan Campbell juice a little bit too much. Everybody loves him, but that was a bad point in the history of the Lions. But it's more of the same. We all know it's coming. We know the Lions collapse is here, and they should have lost to the Bears, and then they got embarrassed on Thanksgiving Day against the Packers. And there's going to be more of that moving forward. As Steve mentioned, you get pressure on Goff. He's Goff. He's got good receivers. He's got weapons around him, but if the blocking's not always there, he's donezo. And then the defense, some questions coming into the season. It seemed like they had made some good moves, but injuries caught up with them. And if you can't play defense and your offense is shaky, you're going to lose quite a few games. Watch out for the Vikings to take this division.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. So, do you agree with that? Lions minus 600 to win the NFC North right now in the DK Sportsbook, and then Vikings plus 475.
Yeah, we just talked about that, too. Yes. I said how there's still 2 games to be played for the Vikings and the Lions. Like, a lot can change. And I think they're 1 game back of the Lions at this point, with 2 games that they still have to play each other. Like, there could be a massive shift in the rankings there. And that's why I said, like, minus 600 for the Lions is a terrible number right now. The gap is not that wide between those 2 teams.
All right, Pierce, your second favorite team. Let's talk Seahawks here, dude. You chasing or fading them to make the playoffs?
I'll chase them to make the playoffs. They're definitely not going to win that division.
I think they can sneak in.
I like Pete Carroll. I think he's a Hall of Fame coach. He can rally the troops. Half the teams in the NFC make the playoffs anyway with the expanded format. I wouldn't completely rule them out, but the division belongs to the 49ers. They're just going to get better every week. They've got the weapons. The defense is loaded.
Whoa.
And one of the things with Brock Purdy is the guy hasn't even played that many games yet. Every game is going to be more development, more growth. They're going to be a scary team by the time the playoffs roll around. But yeah, I'll give the Seattle Seahawks a chance at squeezing into the playoffs.
Interesting. Steve.
No, here's what I want you to do.
Go ahead, Ben.
I want you to grab a crayon, a pen, whatever you have next to you, okay? I want you to write down these teams, and then I want you to tell me how many wins are going to come out of this. They have Dallas, the 49ers, the Eagles, the Titans, the Steelers, and the Cardinals. How many wins are left for Seattle on that schedule? If you say more than 2, you're out of your mind. Did you write it down?
4. Wow!
Listen, I don't know what time zone you're in. Go back to bed because you're not awake yet. All right, go back to bed.
wanna go
What's
back to
it?
bed.
6 a.m. where you are right now. You need to go back to bed. You're out of your mind. They're not making the
gonna beat the
playoffs.
Cowboys.
No, they're going to beat the Cowboys.
Oh my God, Pierce.
Yep.
Yeah, he's had a good Thanksgiving, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Wait, he's still feeling it.
Isn't this the same Cowboys team that lost to the Cardinals?
Yeah.
Okay, so why?
Oh, so
can't they lose
that
to the
means
Seahawks?
that means the Seahawks automatically win because of that. Have you watched the Cowboys over the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, I've seen the Cowboys play, and the Cowboys were playing well before they played the Cardinals, and they still lost that game. They can lose on any given Sunday. It's the Cowboys. They will choke up a couple games down the stretch.
I will say, like, it's the current state of the Seahawks right now. They've scored 1 total offensive touchdown in 3 November losses to the Ravens, the Rams, and now the 49ers.
Josh is off screen right now. He's embarrassed for you. Just want to let you know.
Anywho,
That's good for him.
I mean, like, it is
I'm glad he
becoming
cares.
it is becoming increasingly likely that Smith's standout 2022 season was an anomaly. I don't listen. I think the Steelers would love to have Geno Smith under center.
Sure.
We've seen the struggles that Kenny Pickett has had in his time in Pittsburgh. They have parted ways, the Steelers, with offensive coordinator Matt Canada here, Bukes. The offense will be better down the stretch now without Canada calling plays. Chase or fade that.
I mean, the bar is set down by my ankles at this point. I mean, with Matt Canada at the helm as offensive coordinator, this team averaged 217 passing yards, 108 rushing yards, and 1.7 touchdowns per game, and that is through 45 games. I mean, it's been absolutely atrocious. You have Kenny Pickett, who hasn't eclipsed more than 235 passing yards in a game this season, and has only thrown for 2 touchdowns once. And both of those instances came in one game against the Las Vegas Raiders. Love Las Vegas, hate your football team. So the bar for the offensive scheme, if you want to say, for the Steelers is extremely low. There's nothing to do but go up for this point, but they need to get some of these other guys more involved. Like Warren has been fantastic. You got to get Pickens more involved, Johnson more involved. You have to scheme these guys correctly, but yeah, I think it can't get any worse than it's been at this point. So I think things are looking up for the Steelers.
It can't get any worse, according to Steve, but how much better can it get, Pierce?
It's not going to get any better. This is a classic move of your team stinks, everything stinks, let's just blame the offensive coordinator. It always is the offensive coordinator's fault. You know who loves to play this game? The head coach, the guy who's supposed to be the leader, the guy that's supposed to accept responsibility. And what's he do? The first thing he does is just, it's the offensive coordinator's fault. I know Matt Canada's bad, but at some point Tomlin needs to accept some responsibility and some ownership here. You know who Mike Tomlin is? Mike Tomlin is Marvin Lewis with a Super Bowl. That's all. He's a 500 coach.
Nice.
He's had loaded rosters his whole career. He acts tough to make up for his mediocrity. Nothing's going to change. The Steelers stink.
Wow.
I love this. A little spicy gravy
No,
pouring.
he's still upset that I was trashing on his Seattle Seahawks. That's his problem.
Yeah. Dude, don't project, Pierce. Come on, you're better than that. Bills, you would think, would be better on offense entering the season. No, really?
No.
Entering the season, I definitely thought they would be much better than they currently are. Like, they haven't really had Stephon Diggs, like, super involved in recent weeks. So he has 5 100-yard games, right? All those came in the first 6 weeks here. Under 100 and only a couple scores the last 5 weeks. You want to chase or fade that the Bills get him more involved against the Eagles tomorrow in a huge game.
I mean, if there's a matchup to do it in, then this would be the one.
Right, because secondary, their weak spot.
Secondary is definitely their weak spot here. You're going on. He's going to be seeing a lot of James Bradbury. He's giving up at least 12 yards per reception and when he's in coverage here. But here's the thing: like, they're not targeting Stephon Diggs deep downfield. If you look at his average distance of target over the last 4 games, it sits at 6.1. We're on the season. He's at 10.1. So, like, they're not going deep downfield with Stephon Diggs, which is really kind of his creme brulee.
I was going to say, does that say more about him or more maybe about, like, their confidence in Josh Allen?
I mean, it could be a little bit of both here. But again, if there is a matchup to get Stephon Diggs right back on track here, this is the one here. I think it's over-under for receiving yards in this game, so that's 73.5. I do think that you can take the over on that one there. But this is definitely probably the best matchup that they've had over the past month or so to kind of get Diggs back involved.
All right, Pierce, you going to be more involved tomorrow? How much more involved?
Not much more. I mean, he'll be out there, but do you think they're going to be able to scheme him up with Joe Brady taking over as offensive coordinator? This guy was, the whiz kid out of LSU, and then he didn't even last a season in Carolina. He's going to fix what Buffalo has. Ken Dorsey was supposed to be a great offensive coordinator on his way to a head coaching job till he got fired. And now you're going to replace him with a guy with less talent. He's going to try to figure out how to get Diggs open. I don't think it's going to happen. I know Diggs has had some tough matchups lately that suppressed his stats, but I don't think this is the easiest matchup either. So there's problems in Buffalo. I wouldn't chase this.
Yeah, I think the Bills, the Eagles, and then the Chiefs and Cowboys next 3 games for the Bills. Yep. That is going to be tough. Thank you, Pierce. Good seeing you as always. Coming up next, we're back to college football. Bo Nix in Oregon thriving right now, and now they have a shot at revenge. Whoa. Second hour of the SWAC kicking off, and we got lots coming up. How about some realistic expectations for Tiger Woods as he returns to competitive golf this week? We'll tackle some NHL DFS plays as well as some best bets on tonight's slates. But right now, we're going to return to rivalry weekend around college football. Josh Applebaum, Emerson Latzia here with you. And finally, the rematch that so many wanted next Friday will officially happen because it's going to be Oregon and Washington in the Pac-12 title game after the Ducks knocked off their rivals at home 31-7. Heisman contender Bo Nix accounting for 3 touchdowns. So the team finishes the regular season at 11-1. That rematch again, as I've mentioned, against Washington, upcoming on Friday. Huskies gave the Ducks their only loss of the regular season. That was a 36-33 thriller back on October 14th. Ducks open as a 7.5-point favorite right now.
Yeah, so I think the Ducks, again, there's going to be a great game, the Pac-12 Championship. There's going to be Allegiant Stadium, Emerson, by the way. So it's
yeah, in Vegas, that's right.
Vegas for that one.
Julian Edlow will be there.
I'll have a couple takeaways from this game here. Looking at it, number one, obviously you win and cover here for Oregon. Oregon closed like a 14-point favorite. What was notable to me, Emerson, is the total in that one. That total was set as high as like 60, 61, somewhere around there. It actually opened as high as 63. So using those VSiN.com bets, which I like to refer to, you had 81% of bets on the over. Yet, you always want to compare where the percentages are to the way the line moves. That total, again, opened 63, got down to 60, so you saw that thing fall. Can't wait for this next matchup here against Washington, looking for kind of that revenge spot on a neutral site. And also looking at the Heisman race, Emerson. Bo Nix does it again, had another great game, put up a lot of great stats. He's a very slight favorite, I believe. I think he's like minus 120 right now. Him and Jaden Daniels have been going kind of back and forth here. So this is a team that, if you actually look at the current prices on DraftKings to win the college football championship, we have Georgia as the favorite, plus 240. Michigan's plus 280. But then, even though technically Oregon is ranked 6th right now, they're tied with Ohio State, the third best odds at plus 550. So again, Michigan, Ohio State, someone's going to lose that one. If Oregon can get that revenge spot, I think there is an opening here to get in that CFP.
I mean, Washington had, in the latest rankings, jumped forward a state. So Washington sitting 4, FSU 5, Oregon 6. They want their revenge, and I know Ohio State wants its revenge against the Wolverines, who have bullied the Buckeyes really with their incredible ground production in the last 2 editions of this rivalry. How do you see this playing out today, and what's your bet?
So my bet is a money line play on Michigan, Emerson. It's a little bit complicated in this game, though. So let's start off just anytime
they
we look
need
at
to
a
win
game,
this, so they're going to be labeled as absolute frauds.
They do have to win this one. And again, Harbaugh obviously wishes he was coaching this one. But let's start off with kind of just the overall betting market and how it's moved. This game, look ahead line was Michigan as high as minus 6.5. If you go back more than a week, we kind of readjusted here around 4, 3.5. Now we're actually, some books are going down to 3 here. So if you do like the angle here with Ohio State in a tight game, keeping it close, then I think you want to jump on the hook right now. Obviously, this is coming up here just 3 hours from now, but I am noticing as we're doing the show right now, Emerson, those 3.5s are getting scooped up and falling to 3. So again, if you like the Buckeyes, you want to hit them right now. That hook could be crucial. Obviously, odds makers are predicting a very tight game. If this is a 3-point win by Michigan, if you're a dog better here on the Buckeyes, you need that hook to cash that bet. But here's where it gets a little complicated for me, Emerson. I respect the move toward Ohio State, but also Ohio State is very popular today. They're very trendy today.
Ryan Day sounds confident as hell right now.
He does, and again, that could be a good thing. Confidence, you can kind of go through your locker room and give your players confidence as well. But does it border on a little bit of arrogance here? And is this an opportunity to actually buy low on Michigan? Because Ohio State, and again, this is a massive handle on this game, biggest of the day by far. You're actually upwards of nearly an NFL game in terms of just overall ticket count and money count. But you're getting 70% of bets here on Ohio State. Emerson, it always scares me when a dog is getting more than 60% of bets, almost 70. As you know, the public loves to bet favorites. It's just a safer bet. Psychologically, you'll see a kind of a gravitation toward betting the chalk. When the public loads up on a dog, it becomes trendy, and those are the teams that I kind of want to bet against. And then Michigan, they also have a couple angles in their factor here, Emerson. They didn't cover last week against Maryland. A lot of wise guys actually like the Terps in that one. They just squeaked by. You've seen Ohio State roll their past few opponents here. So you have one team that's been winning blowouts and covering versus a team that's kind of squeaked by the last couple weeks. I kind of want to buy low on the Michigan Wolverines in this situation. And I have a betting system that I love for the Michigan Wolverines in this one. Emerson, when 2 ranked teams play each other, The favorite is 21-3 straight up this year, 88%.
Oh.
And since 2016, those two ranked teams take the favorite at home. It's 152-34 straight up, 82%. So I think if you're betting, Ohio State right now, obviously you're kind of getting the worst of it. At least get the hook if you can grab it. But this is a money line play for me. Buying low. And again, remember, Michigan beat up on Ohio State last year. Futures market is respecting Michigan more. They're plus 280. Ohio State's plus 550. So if you tell me you like Ohio State, at least get the hook. Get the best number for yourself. But I think this is a buy low spot for Michigan. Emerson, they're only getting 30% of bets at home. I smell like a kind of contrarian favorite opportunity here. Buying low. Give me the Wolverines money line, minus 165.
All right. How about FSU Florida here? This line is one that kind of stuck out to me, and I think a lot of bettors out there. You got one team playing for a Final Four spot if it can win its last two games with a backup quarterback, and you have another team, Florida, also with a backup quarterback, as we discussed earlier with Julian, trying to save a salvageable campaign here and get to bowl season.
Yeah, this is the Gator Super Bowl in this one, Emerson.
Yep.
And again, also this kind of tells you and speaks to the importance of star quarterbacks. We see it all the time in the NFL, but same thing in college. When you have a great quarterback like Jordan Travis get hurt in a blowout win, obviously you hate to see that, and that really, I think, dashed a lot of your hopes here to get in that college football playoff. But when we looked ahead, this game was as high as Florida State, minus 10.5, minus 9.5. You're like a double-digit favorite here before Travis got hurt. As soon as he got hurt and you go to the backup here, massive adjustment here toward Florida. Florida's all the way down now to plus 7. A lot of those 7s are getting scooped up. They're down to 6.5. But this is kind of just a classic contrarian play for me with some adjustment here, not just the injury, but the fact that the public doesn't care. They don't really, they're not worried that Travis is out, Emerson. You're still getting nearly 80% of bets laying it with FSU, yet this line keeps falling down toward Florida. So Florida's lost 4 straight. It's a primetime game, 7 o'clock on ESPN. They're only getting, around 27% of bets in this spot. I think it's an opportunity with a motivational angle with the Gators. Like, maybe they lose this thing, but can you lose by 6 or less? I think it's definitely doable. I would look toward back in the Gators here. Unranked versus ranked, at home, in the swamp. Star quarterbacks out for FSU. I'm taking the Gators plus 7. Shop around for the 7, though. A lot of 6.5s there.
All right, does Washington finish off an unblemished regular season against rival Washington State?
I'm a little concerned about this one, Emerson. It feels like a blowout here for Washington.
It's another one of those situations where you have the dog fighting for bowl eligibility here, and that means something to these kids.
Absolutely, and you want to pay attention to, obviously we're at the tail end of the season here, but bowl games are so important for your program, for recruiting for the next year, for visibility on a national stage. So these bowl games are super, super important, and that's what Washington State is fighting for here. Now, I do lean Washington State only from the standpoint of just the lines moving in their favor. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Washington is a huge favorite in this one. They opened minus 17, but we're down to 15.5. Now, you missed a little bit of equity there in the line because it's moved 1.5, but it's notable to me that public just says, hey, Washington, Penix Jr., lay the points. There's a blowout win, which may end up happening, but the betting market seems to respect the big points Washington State. They open again 17 down to 15.5. And also look at maybe the under Emerson. We also think about Washington State with their offense, and they're just super high powered and put up a ton of points. But this total did drop. It was 67. It's down to 66.5, 66. This is a spot for me where I'd lean a little bit under. And if you're forcing me to play it, I didn't play it personally, but I'll lean a little bit and maybe take a shot on the points with a dog.
All right, well, Miami of Florida just crushed Boston College yesterday. Miami of Ohio will face Ball State today. Why'd you want to talk about this game?
I want to talk about this game because it's a game I'm not hearing a lot of people mention or really have on the radar, but it's a sneaky, sneaky wise guy play on Ball State. This one really catches my eye because what I look at, Emerson, is I look at first the most heavily bet games of the day. So obviously, you wake up today, you're looking at Ohio State, Michigan. You're looking at, Florida, FSU. No one really woke up today and said, you know what, Emerson, I can't wait to watch Miami, Ohio, and Ball State. This is just not a game that is garnering a lot of attention. But the thing about wise guys that separates them from the betting public is that the betting public will focus on the games that are on TV. Again, you want to watch a game, you want to sweat a game, the games that are popular, the games that are, you walk into a bar that are on every TV in the bar. Wise guys don't care about that. It doesn't matter to them whether it's a popular game, a low bet game, high bet game. All they're looking at is the value of the number and if they have an edge over the sports book. So what jumped out to me is Ball State here, Emerson. This game opened Ball State getting 6.5. You're now down to 4, and they're only getting 29% of bets, but 62% of the money. So only 3 out of 10 bets are on Ball State, but nearly 2/3 of the dollars. This would also be a kind of a fishy line. Like if you look at Miami, they're 9-2. They're a pretty good team. Ball State's only 4-7. Why did this line open so short? Why is it moving toward Ball State? Ball State is playing better. They've won 3 of their last 4. And these teams did play last year, and Ball State only lost 18-17. You get some of these weird results here in these smaller conferences. I'm taking the points with Ball State. It just smells fishy. A low bet game, yet a very important line move toward Ball State.
Yeah, so again, big rivalry weekend in college football. You're talking about a good opportunity here to maybe target some of these games that are flying under the radar, like a Jacksonville State and New Mexico State as well.
Love Jacksonville State, Emerson. Don't you love it? I throw these games in that are
Absolutely,
just totally
dude.
off the beaten path, but
Has me fired up.
I'm going to make you put a bet on with me and sweat Jacksonville State with me today, Emerson. But I love Jacksonville State in this spot. Super big dog to fave line move. This game opened with New Mexico State, -1.5, -2.5, kind of a short favorite at home. But we have flipped all the way to Jacksonville State -3. And not only is it -3, but I see at least one book here that's juiced up -3, -115. So when you flip dog to favorite, you open as a dog, you go to favorite. That's just an awesome indicator of sharp money in their direction. Jacksonville State only getting 58% bets, but 87% of the money. That's one of the biggest low bets, higher dollar bet discrepancies. And Steve Buchanan is about to roll his eyes, but Emerson, we got a windy under here.
Yeah!
This total
There
fell
it is.
50-49. The windiest under of the day, 20 miles per hour. I'd lean under here. And also on a bet against New Mexico State. They had a huge win over Auburn. I think it's a letdown spot after everyone's like, oh my God, you won. Now you're a short dog at home. No. I think it's a good spot to bet Jacksonville State.
All right, Steve Buchanan off camera, rolling his eyes hard. We're going to put this show on ice coming up here. Jeff Ulrich will join us. We'll talk some top DFS plays around the NHL and which bets to target on the DK Sportsbook. Not one, not two, not three, but 8 games on the NHL slate tonight, and there's one guy here to answer my questions about it. Jeff Ulrich, DraftKings Network contributor. Good morning. How are you, Jeff?
Doing fantastic. It's like 5 a.m. where I live, so.
Oh, that's great. What's your address? Just kidding. Canucks.
The North Pole.
Yeah, awesome. All right, let's get into tonight's slate here. Canucks on the second game of a road back-to-back. So they knocked off the Kraken yesterday. That's great.
Yes.
And they're going to be facing the Sharks tonight, the 3-win Sharks. So I know that, yeah, right? Hey, maybe an opportunity to buy low on the Sharks here. Who knows? But Quinn Hughes, yeah, don't do that. Quinn Hughes, a defenseman. Yes, a defenseman leading the NHL in points. Is he someone to target on the blue line tonight in DFS?
I mean, Quinn Hughes is a target every night in DFS. Certainly he is, yes. I mean, this game has a total of 6.5. The Canucks are massive favorites. Wouldn't shock me at all if Quinn Hughes ended up with another big game or just with another decent game. Obviously, he's having a fantastic year. The Sharks are terrible. I mean, and the thing is, they're going up against the best power play in the league, or one of the best, I should say, in the league. So really just a spot where Quinn Hughes could potentially walk out with like 4 or 5 shots and a couple points. Absolutely. He's 7,600 for DFS. He's actually only the second most expensive player on this slate. So I would prefer him slightly over Cale Makar, certainly at that price range. But this is also a deep slate. I mean, you've got Shea Theodore down there at 5,900, who I would find pretty appealing against Arizona. I think Vegas is in a really good spot. So you don't have to pay up for him. I think anytime a defenseman is 7,600, you've really got to commit to it and like commit to the Vancouver power play. It's not a bad spot to do it. But again, on a slate this deep, I look at Shea Theodore down there at 5,900. I'd probably slightly prefer him. I think you could go down, Devon Taves as well on Colorado, 4,400. You can go either way, but certainly he was in a spot to produce. Yes.
Yeah, a slate this deep. So then what is your strategy at forward, Jeff?
I mean, the funny thing is your strategy at defense almost is going to build what your strategy at forward is. Obviously, if you pay up for Hughes, you need to find some cheaper line stacks. You can't just go up and pay for Nathan McKinnon or something. You would have to go down. I think that maybe looking at a guy like Evgeny Malkin at center at 6,800 is fine. Toronto allows a ton of shots. Pittsburgh's at home. It's a close game, obviously, but certainly Pittsburgh is capable of putting up 4 or 5 goals in this spot. Malkin's been hot all year. I think that at under 7K gives you a pretty elite forward to start with. Certainly you could look to a guy like Valeri Nichushkin playing Calgary on Colorado. I mean, 6,100. This is another player who gives you really good exposure to the Colorado offense, multiple point upside. This is a game with a 6.5 total with a -130 to the over. So we're expecting a lot of goals in this game. I think Nichushkin's another like decent upper tier value. So, again, if you're going to go value it and want to go cheaper, absolutely. You could look to the big guns here. Really like the spot for Jack Hughes. That's probably where I would go if I was paying up for a high price center, but again, deeper slate, it's kind of pick your poison. I personally like going a little bit more value at forward and probably trying to pay up for one of those big defensemen tonight. But, we can go so many different ways on the slate.
All right, let's have you pick your poison here in the crease then. So we might not have official word right now, but 3 of the top 4 Vezina contenders are in action. So I'm talking here, Demko, Shesterkin, and Swayman.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really funny too, because obviously 2 of them play each other. With Swayman and Shesterkin. So, Thatcher Demko at 8,500, it's a pretty good spot. What you worry about with Demko is he going to see enough shots? I mean, realistically, like upside wise in DFS, you really need to, especially when you're playing big GPPs, you want your goalie facing shots because you want access to those really big nights where he stops 35 pucks, maybe only lets in 1 goal, maybe even gets you a shutout. But I'm just not sure if Demko is going to be in that spot. I think he's probably going to pick up the win, which makes him like a nice solid cash game play. I would definitely venture down in salary here. I think that you looking down, like Vitek Vanacek is in a potential bounce back spot. He's terrible his last outing, but I kind of like the spot for the Devils. I think that whoever starts in net for the Islanders is going to be a really good play too. That's probably where I would be looking for value, either Sorokin or Varlamov. So 7,500 there. I think waiting to see who starts for the Islanders is going to be a big key, but I really like that price on both their goalies.
Yeah, well, speaking of Swayman and Shesterkin here, dude, we have the Bruins and Rangers clashing today. So Bruins coming off just their second regulation loss of the season, both to the Detroit Red Wings. So what is the bet in this game, dude?
Yeah, it just sounds so weird to say.
It really does.
Losses to the Detroit Red Wings, the best, two of the best teams in the East, losing to. But Wings are pretty good this year. I digress. I think that it's fine to go with the Rangers in this spot. I really do. You're getting a better price on the money line, -102. Obviously, we have two elite goaltenders, but I think that whenever Igor Shesterkin is at home, I mean, this is a player who can obviously steal the game for you. And just the fact that we're getting slightly better odds here. And again, like the Bruins are really solid this year. They're such a sound fundamental team. But they're a little bit what I would call lesser than last year, right? I mean, Bergeron obviously is a factor. Their goaltending's been extremely good again, but they're facing a team in the Rangers have really good special teams, a little bit deeper down the middle. They can match them in net. I think this is a spot where you trust the Rangers at home. They've been pretty trustworthy already this year, these kind of spots. And that's kind of where I would lean tonight. I think the Rangers probably pick up the W. I also would not hate the under here. I know it's at 5.5. People don't like betting numbers, but these two teams are both under trending teams, and at -102 to the under, I don't hate that price either.
New Jersey started the year, it was 7-3-1, Jeff, but injuries have really taken a toll on the Devils here, resulting in a 1-6 skid, and Buffalo not playing full strength either. These two will clash later today. So what are you going to be targeting on the DK Sportsbook here?
I like this one for an over. I like it quite a bit. Again, if I was going to lean one of these sides, I would try and take a chance with the Devils here. I just feel that the Devils are just too good not to get it together soon enough. And the fact we're getting them -166 at home versus the Sabres, I just think that they're still the better team. So I would lean there, but I really like the over. The Devils are 13-5 to the over this year, just in straight up games. And you look at the Sabres have actually been, weirdly enough, trending towards an under team, but when they're on the road, they're actually only 5-5. So they're 5-5 to the over, 500, basically a 50-50 record. But again, you pair that with the Devils, who are 7-2 at hitting overs when at home. I think this one goes over. I think you're going to see a lot of goals. The goalies here are weak on both sides. I mentioned Vanacek struggling lately. The Sabres certainly, still using a rookie in net. I really like the over, even at -130.
All right, you like the total there. Is there another one on the DK Sportsbook that catches your eye?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, it is probably my favorite total, the Sabres Devils. So want to get that out of the way. I mean, if you're looking at overs, obviously we'd like a slightly better price, but I got to be honest, I don't mind taking the short price to the over on Calgary and Colorado either. The Flames have started to generate a lot more offense 5-on-5. I think they're going to put pressure on Colorado here. And then you look at the goaltenders in this situation too. The Flames goaltenders can be a little bit hot or cold, but they're playing on the road, after playing, a pretty busy schedule in Colorado. I mean, I think that the Avalanche could get off to a hot start here. I think the Flames could obviously, with their offensive prowess being a little bit better than it has been, potentially make this a bit of a back and forth game. So again, you've got a couple teams here, especially the Flames, who've been trending towards over 13-7 to the over, for Calgary so far. I'd like the over in this one as well.
Favorite goal line or money line bet on today's slate, Jeff Ulrich?
I mean, the Coyotes every time I bet against the Coyotes this year, they've come up with this like hero game and like somehow just made sure I lose. But I'm betting against them today. I think Vegas is in a really good spot. I think you can look at Vegas a couple different ways. You can bet them regulation, -165. It's a bit of a shorter line, but I mean, like we're talking about a pretty big discrepancy in teams here. The Coyotes, again, just allowed 6 goals to the Blues. They've kind of been allowing goals at an obscene rate lately. They're starting to crumble a little bit 5-on-5. But I think taking the puck line here is fine as well. It's +105 to take Vegas to cover that -1.5 goals. I think with the rate that they've been allowing goals and just how good Vegas is at limiting shots, I just don't think they're going to allow the Coyotes to get back in the game if they get up. So looking at Vegas here, again, I like the 60-minute line, but I think you can play them on the puck line as well.
All right, so it's like the reverse jinx. So when you bet against the Coyotes, They always prove you wrong. You're doing that tonight. So everyone watching, bet the Coyotes tonight. It is still early in the season, Jeff, but as the saying and stats go here, the playoffs are pretty much set by Thanksgiving here in the States. So what's a future you're looking at right now?
I mean, I don't have a ton of leans in terms of like the overall award department. I think that if you're looking at, say, the Vezina, I think you're still getting pretty good prices. Like Jeremy Swayman, I think the top 4 goalies are all in really good spots, but I think Jeremy Swayman at plus 800 is in a really nice spot potentially. Obviously it's kind of we're taking over the role there. So that's someone to look at. But, let's look at the big picture here. Let's look at the Stanley Cup. I think there's a couple teams that you could potentially buy low on. I think that the LA Kings are actually really interesting this year, plus 1,400. And then we mentioned the Devils, plus 1,600. If you like this team, and I do like the Devils, potentially they'll get some goaltender at the deadline. I think they're still really strong 5-on-5, kind of like the Devils now as a buy low for the Stanley Cup odds at plus 1,600.
All right, Jeff, stay with us here. We got to take a quick break, but I want to get your opinion on realistic expectations for Tiger Woods when he returns to the course this week. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Well, guess who's back? Back again. Yeah, Jeff is, but also Tiger Woods this week. Teeing off at the, the Hero World Challenge, man. I believe it's in the Bahamas. Be nice and warm down there and tropical. So Tiger Woods is back for the first time since pulling out of the Masters last spring, Jeff Ulrich. Bettors love a fairy tale return, don't they, here? First off, give me just, what are reasonable expectations for Tiger this week?
Reasonable expectations is that, like, he doesn't limp too much.
Yeah.
That, like, we don't have some sort of major catastrophe, like injury, like they get out the medical cart. That's all. That's literally my expectation is just that, like, Tiger has a good time and that he doesn't have an injury. That's it. I don't care if he shoots 150. My expectations for him are so low that it's like, it's basically just that he survives the event.
Okay.
In all seriousness, I just want to see him, like, be comfortable on the course so that potentially he can play a little bit more in the future. So I don't really have that many expectations. Be great to just see him swinging freely and, like I said, injury free. That's the biggest thing. Just stay away from the injuries.
Yeah, no, I agree. I want to see him just make it 4 rounds walking, because he cannot take a cart in this event like he can for the Father-Son Challenge that he'll play with Charlie in a couple weeks here. Who wins on the PGA Tour first, Tiger or Charlie? Who wins next?
I would still lean Tiger. I mean, it's tempting to say Charlie Woods, but I mean, look, we have seen Tiger Woods come back from so much. It honestly, I will say this, from a longer term perspective, it honestly wouldn't shock me. Tiger Woods made a run at winning one more time before something, not a major, but
all right, but not this week at plus 5,500 in a 20-man field. No, not giving him a shot.
Week. Let's just be clear, not this week. No, the dude hasn't played in an event for a while, and I mean, like, again, he's it's not even rusty. It's just like, again, he's trying to build his strength back up. No, plus 5,500, even in a 20-man event that's, a little gimmicky, that's going to be, very laid back. No, he's going up against the cream of the crop at the top, and someone's going to come in here and shoot, like, just shoot the lights out. It's always nice to think, oh, hey, man, maybe I could be the guy who, like, guesses when Tiger Woods is going to make his next miracle win or something. But this, my friends, is not the spot where you need to be betting on Tiger Woods. Plus 5,500 is just not a line that you need any part of in your life.
I mean, you mentioned 20-man field, but this is a stacked 20-man field. So is there an outright bet you are considering for the Hero this week?
There is actually. Looking at the odds, I mean, Colin Morikawa at plus 850. This is a player who's already won in the fall, so he's played a little bit, because I think that part of the problem with this event is you've got players coming in from all different aspects. A lot of these guys have not picked up the clubs since the Ryder Cup, and they haven't played, like, in a competitive event since the FedEx. You've got other players, though, like Colin Morikawa, who has played a little bit in the fall. Colin Morikawa finally grabbed a win over in Japan, his first in a while. Now he's coming into a tropical environment. We saw him do really well in Hawaii at a very similar kind of setup earlier in the season, earlier in 2023. Now he blew the lead there, but this, to me, definitely reeks of, a little bit of similarity. I think plus 850 is actually pretty fair for him in this field, considering he's one of those players who has been playing a little bit of competitive golf and looked really good the last time we saw him. I like these odds quite a bit. I think you could also look at Cameron Young at plus 2,200. I know he hasn't won, but again, this is a player who's played quite a bit over the fall. He's played 3 or 4 events. He's had some good rounds. I don't think Cameron Young is that far off. And just from the competitive aspect, the fact that he's made starts, I would give him an edge over a lot of players that are kind of at his similar odds, at the plus 2,000, plus 2,500 range. So don't hate Cameron Young for a long shot either.
Okay, so let's look into our crystal balls even more here, Jeff. On the DK Sportsbook, like, there are specials for golfers to win a major in 2024. Is there someone at the top of your list when it comes to this category you like?
Yeah, so to win a major, it's kind of interesting. I mean, obviously, we can go into the like the separate events, but if we're just looking, like, to win a major, I will be dead honest. I'm just trying to make sure that we have. So I don't think we have odds for. I was going to say Bryson DeChambeau, but I was looking at the U.S. Open odds. If you want to bet Bryson, maybe look at the futures for the U.S. Open odds. But if we're going just pure to win a major, I would almost continue my Morikawa love here at plus 650. I will be dead honest. Betting to win a major odds isn't the best idea when you're looking to bet futures for golf. Yeah. The better idea is to go into the singular events and look at the odds there. So that's what I would do with Morikawa. But if I'm looking at this group of sort of players and names that we have in odds, I think that Morikawa plus 650 is still probably like a decent enough value compared to some of the other big names. Like he's got the same odds as Spieth. I would certainly give Morikawa shorter odds to win a major next year than Jordan Spieth. Even Max Homa at plus 450, like Max Homa is great. I think he will challenge in the majors a little bit more consistently, but Morikawa plus 650, Morikawa's just got a better chance in my opinion. He's still a more consistent player, just a lot more upside. So I think Colin Morikawa is probably my target there. But again, I'd probably rather dip into the singular event odds.
Well, we all know first major of the year, that's going to be the Masters, my dude. And Jon Rahm, currently the favorite right now to repeat, plus 750. Yeah. Scotty Scheffler, world number one, plus 800. Rory McIlroy there. Don't do that because he can't seem to. It's like the floor is lava or the floor is a green jacket. It's like he's up on the fan, the Spider-Man meme. Right now, early Masters bet, though. What do you like? Who do you like?
Yeah, no, I mean, if I was going to bet Rory, I'd need like plus 1,200. I need a little bit bigger.
That was just so disappointing last year, man. His whole performance.
I mean, it's every year, though. Like you said, It's not just last year. Two names stick out to me in the Masters futures odds. Cameron Smith at plus 2,200. We've seen Cameron Smith get his way around Augusta extremely well in the past. This is a player whose short game and putting is just absolutely at a level where you almost expect that one year he's just going to come in and dominate these greens and potentially just putt his way to a green jacket, similar to what Patrick Reed did, similar to, kind of Jordan Spieth in that vein. I think Cameron Smith at plus 2,200, when you look at the names below him, Brooks, Cantlay, Xander, certainly I'll take Smith over Cantlay and Xander at this event. Probably would take him over Spieth at 1,600, even though Spieth obviously loves Augusta, but Cameron Smith, I think, sticks out. And then again, I mean, this is a running theme for me in the majors right now, but Colin Morikawa plus 2,500. You have the best iron player in the world here. Like we're talking about absolutely just someone who does something so elite. Mm-hmm. And, the putter can come and go, but certainly towards the end of 2023, Colin Morikawa was far more consistent on and around the greens. And I think at plus 2,500, you just have to look at the bigger picture. He's double the odds of Hovland. He's got far higher odds than Spieth at plus 1,600. Cantlay and Schauffele both have shorter odds than Colin Morikawa. There's no way those guys have a better chance at Augusta. We've seen Morikawa top 5 here, so he's competed at Augusta as well. I think these are very fair future odds for Colin Morikawa. And unfortunately, like for Augusta, I don't really have too many long shots. I don't think you should go too high on the board of this event anyways. Maybe Joaquin Niemann, if he shows a little form early in the year, would be a name at plus 4,000. I would potentially get on, but right now, Smith and Morikawa, I think, just sticking out to me a little bit too big on those names, I think, when you compare them to the rest of the field.
Damn, dude, Louis Oosthuizen, no mention of him. He's plus 13,000. Hey, same odds as Billy Ho, as my boy Billy Ho, wow, who can't seem to break 70 at Augusta. Damn,
we'll get a Billy Ho, Louis Oosthuizen playoff for the green jacket. Who knows?
Well, perfect segue from the Masters to my next question for you here, because Jon Rahm winning his first green jacket last year, and his name has been in headlines the past few days in the golf world here, reportedly has been offered a historic $600 million contract by LIV. He's strongly considering it. How big of a blow would this be to the PGA Tour? Because also, let's keep in mind, the LIV and PGA Tour merger, that remains in limbo right now. So if this guy goes, this the biggest blow that LIV would have dealt the PGA Tour?
Oh yeah. You think the reigning green jacket wearer, the best player in the world by most metrics? It would be a massive blow. And the problem with Rahm going too, it just potentially sets the stage for more players to go, right? I'm certain that if Rahm goes, probably a guy like Patrick Cantlay, maybe right behind him. Who knows? They may even go after like the young players, like Oberg or something like that. So this one would hurt. And I think that if Rahm goes to LIV, I think one thing that you'll see is you'll almost have two flagship tours. Like if the merger happens, I don't think it'll just be, we got the PGA here up on this high mountain. Liv, unfortunately, is going to have to be given its respect. I mean, they're really going to, like, they're basically committing to Liv at that point with Rahm there. I really think that it's going to become its own kind of flagship tour, regardless of whether we want that or not, because there's just too much invested in it at that point now, giving a guy a $600 million contract.
Yeah.
So Rahm to Liv would have obviously massive ramifications. You don't need me to tell you that, but I think down the road, what it would do is probably ensure that Liv sticks around for a while and potentially even becomes, like I said, a side-by-side tour with the PGA, which almost sounds crazy considering how this all started, but it certainly would pave the way for Liv to have, I think, a longer lifespan and potentially maybe even take over one day from the PGA Tour. Who knows? It's too hard to tell right now. We're just we're in the obviously infant stages of this thing.
Yeah, he says money's not his primary motivation. He said that before. He likes the competition on the PGA Tour, but you put $600 million in front of me, I'm taking it, baby.
That's a different kind of money.
What our guys are thankful for next. welcome back to the final block of the Sweats. Steve Buchanan, Josh Applebaum. I'm Emerson Latzia. Before these two dish out their no sweat bets. Right now, welcome to Thanks Betting, everybody.
Oh.
Yeah, this is going to be very delicious. A little bit of leftovers, but also it's time for you guys to tell us and give thanks for the players and bets and teams that you are thankful for. So, for example, which quarterback are you most thankful for? If you go to the VSiN prop analyzer over here, who's most profitable? That would be Kenny Pickett. All right, Kenny Pickett, 9-1 to the under of pass completions. So, for example, it seems like you would be very thankful for Matt Canada's time in Pittsburgh here, Josh Applebaum. What do you think?
Yeah, so Pickett, obviously, you're looking toward a guy who's cashed a ton of bets here. And I think what's also important is when you're being thankful for something, it's something that either cashes for you because you bet it in the affirmative or cashes for you because you fade them. So I'll go another way. I'm going to give you a couple quarterbacks I'm thankful for. QBs by the last name of Jones.
I know those guys.
So I know Steve knows them very well. Both Mac Jones and Daniel Jones. Mac Jones 2-8 against the spread this year. Daniel Jones 0-6 ATS this year. Daniel Jones obviously hurt for the rest of the season. A combined 2-14 against the spread. So I think when you look at betting for or against, obviously if you can locate or pinpoint a guy who just isn't getting it done, you can bet against them. You can make money just as you would be tailing versus fading. And then in the positive direction, Emerson, CJ Stroud. Stroud is a huge favorite here for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think he's over like minus 2,000 at this point. But he's 5-1 against the spread as a dog. He's 8-2 to the over for his passing yards. And Emerson, I don't want to scare you a little bit.
No, what are you going to say?
We got a big game tomorrow. Your Jags at the Houston Texans.
Yep. What are you going to say?
It's a short number, and it's fallen a little bit toward Houston, my man.
That's okay.
So I'm thinking about Houston and the points.
Let the cowards be cowards.
Yeah, tease them up, but I'll have to check with you before I make that official bet.
Yeah, don't be an nincompoop, people. Bukes, quarterback you're thankful for. Is it one of the Joneses?
Or Jimmy G, maybe?
I mean, there's multiple quarterbacks to be thankful for. This was all in the VSiN betting guide, too. Patriots alternate win total under 5.5. Are they going to go get 6 wins before the season's over? They have 2. Okay, not happening. Jimmy G, under passing yards, doesn't even have a job anymore. You know what his job is? To hold the clipboard. Ryan Tannehill, under passing yards. I don't even think he's on the Titans anymore. I think he got released. Or they were looking.
He's going to be.
Doesn't matter. He's done. That was all of those bets. Under those wins, under those passing yards with both those guys, easiest place. Sweat-free for the season. We don't have to worry about them going over the passing yards if they're not even taking the field. And then Mac Jones. Oh, I could kiss him. Thank you for being so terrible and being one of the worst quarterbacks in the league that we're going to cash that plus 175 on under 5.5 wins. It's been a great year for futures in the NFL.
Yeah, it certainly has. What about in the wide receiver department, Steve? Is there a wide receiver you're extremely thankful for, either because of really good stuff or really bad stuff?
I mean, I just continue to bet overs on Tyreek Hill's receiving yards, and it just continues to hit. Yesterday was the 7th time this season that Tyreek Hill has gone over 100 receiving yards.
He's so set on hitting 2,000 receiving yards.
Yes.
It's been his goal. He's extremely vocal about it, too, in every interview throughout this year.
No one else in the league has more than 3. So he has more than double than everybody else in the league. And then there's a bet you can continue to take, too, as well. In games that the Dolphins play, you can bet on who is going to have the most receiving yards in a game. Tyreek Hill has won that bet 5 times already this season. He just was eked out by Jalen Waddle in that game yesterday against the Jets, but nonetheless, Tyreek Hill has been a money-making machine when it comes to overs, and for the most receiving yards in a game, that's usually priced at like minus 110, minus 120 for Hill, even with what he's done all throughout the year. So he has been one of the most profitable guys that you can bet on when it comes to receiving yards.
Josh, which wide receiver would you like to give thanks for right now as we celebrate Thanks Betting?
So Tyreek Hill comes to mind definitely for from Steve's explanation there. But also, Steve, let me throw this at you real quick. For Offensive Player of the Year, McCaffrey and Tyreek Hill are basically a coin flip. They're both around even money. McCaffrey, obviously, anytime touchdown, that should be something we should be thankful for, too.
Yeah.
Cashes it every single week here. But if you had to put a bet down right now, Steve, who would you project, pretty much the same exact price, Hill or McCaffrey, Offensive Player of the Year?
I think it has to be Hill because of the record that he's potentially going to be breaking here. I think Hill's the guy.
I'm with you on that one. I'll give you another one, though, Emerson. David Njoku. Now, he's a tight end. He's not a wide receiver. But it's unbelievable, and I think that the whole point of this, kind of exercise is that, obviously you have the big name players, but you can cash a bet on someone who is a lesser known name or a bigger name. It doesn't matter. The whole point as a bettor is we're trying to cash bets. David Njoku, and props to the VSiN props analyzer here from Jason Lattis, but he is 9-1 to his over receptions. Did you guys know that coming into today?
I was just
I knew. Well, I knew you knew that, Emerson, because you know every player here.
He
But
had like 15 targets last, or 14 targets last week.
7 catches,
especially now that Watson's gone. Like any
security
of these
blanket.
any of these backup dudes who come in, like where do they like to go?
Yeah.
Where they're comfortable, a little dish off to the running back, or you go to your safety blanket, which is typically your tight end.
He is super consistent. He averages, upwards of 7, 8 targets a game. He's catching, 4 or 5 catches a game. To me, that's a guy that, again, may not be the first name that comes to mind. But again, using that prop analyzer, Njoku's a guy who you can target. If you can get him anywhere like over 3.5 catches, I got to look it up, his next one. But that's a guy I would look toward going over with.
Here we go. So you were talking receptions or yards?
I believe it's receptions.
Okay, yeah, because
yards is around 50-ish a game.
Yeah, yards, 39.5. His receiving yards prop tomorrow at Denver. I'm not seeing
Denver's
catches on
been
here yet.
one of the worst defenses.
Oh, here we go.
against
4.5 is what his total is for receptions.
take the over on that.
I got to lean over.
The Broncos have been statistically one of the worst defenses against opposing tight ends. That's a huge spot for Njoku tomorrow.
All right, team or coach you're thankful for? Maybe team covering all those games, or a coach who's been so bad that they keep losing and it makes you look good when you want to bet the under wins, like the Pats?
I mean, the Pats, of course. Well, let's go a little bit different direction. Everybody knows I'm going to say the Pats. The Carolina Panthers have been an amazing team to bet against the spread. They've only covered in one game this season, and that's when they won against Houston outright, which, when you consider how well Houston's playing now, is absolutely asinine to think that that is a team, the only team that the Panthers have beat so far this season. But they are 1-7-2 against the spread so far this season. Amazing that they were able to beat Houston earlier in the year to give them their first and only win of the season. But continue to be underdogs, still aren't able to cover spreads here. The Panthers have been a money-making machine to bet on the other side of those games on the spread.
Are you buying or selling Frank Wright on the hot seat there? Or how hot it is?
Not necessarily. I mean, they just have nobody. Right, like when your big offseason acquisition is Adam Thielen, and he ends up being the best player on the team.
I know.
I
he's
mean,
like 47.
That says more about the team than I think what Frank Reich is doing.
And no draft picks to improve in the next few years.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're obviously in trouble, but that's not Reich's fault.
Okay, so you got a team or a coach you're thankful for?
So thankful in the positive, Sirianni. Sirianni's been, I think, one of the better coaches here. Questionable when he's coming in. He put the the pens in his visor. I was like, you're trying a little bit too hard here, but I got to give him credit. The tush push has been ridiculous. I love the fact that every other team tries it and they just can't do it. So people are like, oh, outlaw it. It's like, no, if it's one thing that a team can do that others can't, you give them credit that they've kind of just been so excellent with that. He's 7-2-1 ATS, Cowboys 8-3 ATS, Browns 7-3 ATS. But did you know that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 7-3 against the spread this year?
Yeah, I knew that.
To me, that's again, I shouldn't even ask. I know you know these things, Emerson, but that was a surprise to me. And then I'm also going to throw in Belichick just from the standpoint of 2-8 against the spread. He's not winning. He's not covering numbers. Does he go? You're hearing rumors about the LA Chargers over the offseason.
Or the Commanders.
I just don't get, Emerson. You're kind of in your back end of your career. You want to prove that that it wasn't all Brady. Spend some money. Make some moves. He had a very telling quote a few years ago. He only wants to coach players that he likes. He just, to me, I don't understand the going for the record here for the wins. You don't go all out. Like, after 06, you load up for 07. I just don't understand Belichick's end game. Maybe he's okay with, having these losing years. But to me, bet against him while you can before he goes for the Chargers.
Yeah, I know in terms of type of bets, I know you're very thankful for windy unders this year. Your no sweat bet today, Joshua.
So I'm going with the Michigan Wolverines. I like the Wolverines in this spot. Biggest game of the day by far. Totally respect. Again, the move has gone here toward Ohio State. This was Michigan as high as -6.5. We walked into the studio this morning. It was 3.5. Now it's down to 3. So again, you like Ohio State, grab the hook. But Michigan is only getting 25% of bets. 2 ranked teams take the home favorite. It's been upwards of 80% straight up. I think it's a good buy low spot on Michigan. Everyone loves Ohio State today. Give me the Wolverines on the money line.
I mean, the winner of that game has scored 42 points in 4 consecutive meetings, but should be a defensive battle today. What do you got?
Yeah, looking towards tomorrow. I love the Bucks on the spread, plus 2.5 against the Colts. Colts are the
nice
public.
transition.
Yeah, the Colts are the big public favorite in this one. Last 5 weeks, Bucks have faced the 49ers, Titans, Houston, Buffalo, Atlanta. Mayfield's averaging 260 passing yards, 8-3 touchdown to interception ratio. I don't get the love here for the Colts. Give me the Buccaneers 5-2 as an underdog on the spread this year.
All right, good stuff, man. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with us. We're back here tomorrow morning on DraftKings Network and VSiN, part of the 5-hour pregame power-up. Cannot wait to break down that Giants-Pats game tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. 2 idiots.
Sexy.
Take the points.
Vito and Nat.